there are hundreds of millions of people banking on you not believing that. Because the idea
Uh-huh.
of America is what keeps Western civilization going. And that's throughout my childhood, I clung to that idea, saying, this is something that I have to be part of. So I was paying 53% of my income to the IRS, right? So 39.6% for California, 13.3%,
I like that.
13.3% California, 39.6% federal, and then Medicare and Obamacare on top. So I was paying 53.3% of my income. As a data scientist, that's not enough for me. I want to know how much weightage to apply to each. Is job growth 50%? Is it 80%? Is schools 4% or 40%, right? Which one of these works more? And so I was like, well, the only way to figure that out is to create large data sets. I've continued on from there. That was, 2011, 2012. Now there's, 100,000 people that follow me. There's, 1,000 investors that have given me about $300 million of their money.
Welcome to another episode of Dream Big and Think Dream Free podcast, where our mission to inspire, impact, and empower millions of people. I'm your host, Dr. Sachin Maske, and today we have a very special guest, and I'm excited as another dreamer, Neal Bawa, all the way from California, and has a very inspiring and exciting story we all need to hear and learn from him. I'm very honored and privileged and very excited to have Neal in our show. How are you doing, Neal? And welcome to the show.
Thanks so much. I'm excited to be here. We've talked before and met each other, connected with each other many times before. So it's great to be on the show.
Thank you, thank you. And I know it's a beautiful day here in Massachusetts too. It's sunny, and again, it's amazing day, and I'm very excited for today's show. Before I start, I wanted to give a short bio of Neal, and we go from we'll start the podcast from there. So again, the short bio: Neal Bawa is a technologist who is universally known in real estate circle as the mad scientist multifamily. Besides being one of the most demand speaker in commercial real estate, Neal is a data guru, process freak, and outsourcing expert. Neal chairs his $1 billion multifamily portfolio. He has done 31 projects in the past, about 5,000 units plus in more than 10 states. As Neal Bawa has a two mantra that he follows. The first mantra is we can only manage that what we can measure. And his second mantra is data beats gut feeling by millions miles. This mantra and dozen other disruptive beliefs drive profit for his 900 plus investors. Neal Bawa is also CEO and co-founder of Ugrow Investment. He's also CEO founder of Grow Capital's Investment. Neal loves public speaking, and he's energetic and humorous speaker. He also served as CEO of Multifamily University as an apartment investment education company. He's a top-rated and demand presenter at conference and event across the country. Over 5,000 students attend his multifamily seminar series each year, and hundreds attend his apartment magic boot camps. Tens of thousands listen to his podcast appearance, and he has featured in over more than 150 top podcasts and radio shows. Neal's asset management revenue optimization technique for multifamily are considered unique in the industry. Thank you, Neal, again. Today we're going to focus about his mission to build 10,000 townhomes, something called build to rent, and also our real estate trend that's going on for past 18 months. My first question for Neal today is, who is Neal Bawa and why is in his world?
Neal Bawa is a technologist. He's a data geek. He's a data scientist that is obsessed with the use of big data to create profit in many spheres of life, including real estate.
Sure.
But I'm not necessarily a real estate guy, and I don't ever want to be a real estate guy. I'm somebody that looks at data. I looks at technologies like AI and says, how do I apply this to real estate and get the maximum possible result? When I make my mistakes, I want to measure them, figure out how I made the mistake, what was that measurement, and then I basically say, how can I take this measurement and make sure that I don't make the same mistake again? So, as I said, data beats gut feel by a million miles, and you can only manage what you can measure.
Sure, definitely. I totally agree with that. And before I go further, I just wanted to podcast is always dreaming big and thinking different. I wanted to go back to your childhood. When you're a child, what was your childhood dream back in those days?
My dream was to come to the United States. I have always been obsessed with one singular idea. If you look at the wallpaper in my room in India, it was the
Mhm.
entire wall, which I didn't have the money to actually pay somebody, so I did it myself. I did it with a glue stick, so it actually came off, and I had to redo the whole thing. And it was a wallpaper of the Manhattan skyline. And to me, I think what I was interested in was not America, but it was the idea of America, the idea of
Mhm.
a place where all things are possible, the idea of a place where people could be the greatest technologist in the world, or the greatest entrepreneur in the world, which I believe is Elon Musk, or the or people like Martin Luther King. I mean, these people inspired me. So what I America is a place,
Absolutely.
but I think more importantly, America is an idea, and there are in the world hundreds of millions of people today that are still inspired by that idea. Sometimes I feel Americans feeling like their country is going, downhill. But don't believe that. There are hundreds of millions of people banking on you not believing that. Because the idea
Uh-huh.
of America is what keeps Western civilization going. And that's throughout my childhood, I clung to that idea, saying, this is something that I have to be part of.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. And this is definitely a land of freedom, and I call land of opportunity. We all just have to need to have a dream, and if you work every day and don't give up, I think anything can be possible. I totally agree with that. So getting back to going back to your childhood, and I believe you were born and raised in India.
I
And
was,
can you,
yes.
yeah, tell me more about how was your childhood, and where did you go to school?
So I went to school in Mumbai, and when I was 9 or 10 years old, I was diagnosed with borderline autism. So my father was a
Mm.
fighter pilot in the Indian Navy, so we had access to the local hospital, and luckily I got good treatment there. So they didn't cure autism because you can't really cure autism; you can manage it. And so they
Yep.
diagnosed me as somebody who sees the world in numbers. So like when I am sitting anywhere, when I'm walking, when I'm lying down, I just see numbers everywhere. Everything is translated into numbers. For example, a few
Hmm.
seconds ago when you were speaking, I had a moment to think, and my mind was thinking, what is the aspect ratio of the Zoom window in front of me? And I was thinking, I think it's 17 by 10. Now, that may not make any sense to you, but it sort of explains to
Hmm.
you how my mind thinks. I take everything
Wow.
that I see and everything that I think, and it translated into a bunch of numbers. Now, initially, my teachers thought that there was something wrong with that. But when they diagnosed
Hmm.
it, they said, this is a gift. You need to let it develop. But what you need to do at the same time is not withdraw into numbers. So they focused on my social skills, which were poor because I was basically I couldn't understand anybody that didn't speak numbers, and people don't speak in numbers. So they worked with me
Absolutely.
to make me understand that it's not normal for people to speak in numbers, and that my gift means that I can speak in two different ways: socially with other people, and then also
Uh-huh.
internally I can have my constant number discussion going. And that really helped me and sort of normalized me from that autistic spectrum.
Hmm. That's amazing gift you have from, and all these things you're doing is basically are about data and the numbers. So you were born and raised in Mumbai, and you came to United States and back in, I don't know when exactly. When did you arrive here?
It was extreme luck. I came here in 1997. I was teaching some extremely complicated courses, and everyone wanted that kind of training. It was technology that was helping build the internet. So there was the back end infrastructure of the internet. And so very high in demand. So my timing was incredible. And then the company that hired me moved me up into management a year later. And then 2 years later, I was running that company. So I was one of
Hmm.
their youngest VP. So I became a VP at the age of 26, and 27, became a
Uh-huh.
chief operations officer at the age of 28, and became a partner in the company 1 year later. And I ran that company, that technology company, from 1999 when we have 10 employees to when we sold in 2013 when we had 400 employees. And
Or,
throughout that process, that 14 years, as you can imagine, Sachin, I was like you, you're a doctor, technologists that are successful, we make a huge amount of money. And unfortunately,
sure.
I live in Taxifornia. And so I was paying 53% of my income to the IRS, right? So 39.6% for California, 13.3%,
I like that.
13.3% California, 39.6% federal, and then Medicare and Obamacare on top. So I was paying 53.3% of my income.
That's
And what
ridiculous.
drove me to real estate was simply this strong desire to get my taxation down. And I went from
Yep.
a year where I actually paid 53.3% of my income in taxes, and it was so painful to do that. I felt like I was working for the IRS. Um, to a year where I paid no taxes and I made three times as much money, and I did it completely legally. And
Absolutely.
once a person like me that's math based gets this through their head, I mean, their life changes.
Yeah, I really like the few things you just said about taxes, and I was under like same thing in Redder, and as you rightly said, yeah, it's more than 50% of your money goes to working 2 hours every day for Uncle Sam.
Yeah.
So yeah, so fast forward, you have achieved so much in real estate. I wanted to start with your journey in real estate. Why did you choose real estate? And you were just mentioned about tax, but why and how did you get started in real estate?
Simply because I couldn't find anybody else in real estate doing what I was doing. So, as you know, there are many very data-driven people in real estate. People use spreadsheets and they use underwriting tools and they use all kinds of stuff to, get to those results. And I commend that, right? I think that that's something that's wonderful and should be done. Here's what I didn't see people doing in real estate. So I would see people that would live in Houston, and so they would start buying properties in Houston, and they would do all the math right on those properties and figure out which ones to buy and how much to pay for them. They were doing that really well. Now, here's the
Mm-hmm.
problem, though. I didn't see
Mm-hmm.
those people thinking outside of Houston and saying, "Hmm, is Dallas better? Is Huntsville, Alabama better? Is a small city in Idaho better?" So they weren't thinking that. They were just thinking within Houston, I'm going to buy the right stuff. And again, nothing wrong with that mindset. Pretty much everyone in the industry has this mindset. I was very curious. I was like, well, first, I want to know how many cities are there in the United States, right? And the answer is
Mm-hmm.
there's over 3,000 towns in the United States, and there's 323 metros as tracked
Mm-hmm.
by Wikipedia. And then I was like, so which one is better for real estate? And somebody must have figured out that answer. And so I look online. No one's actually figured that answer out. There are some small indications that certain things are better and certain cities are better at different times, but no one had really spent a great deal of time figuring out which MSA is better. So first I was
Right.
like, for real estate purposes and real estate profits, what are the things that matter the most? And there were some things that people were talking about, and I was like, but which ones matter more, right?
Mm-hmm.
People were saying things like job growth, population growth, home price growth, income growth, crime reduction, and schools. These are sort of most popular. But it's like, okay,
Right.
so as a data scientist, that's not enough for me. I want to know how much weightage to apply to each. Is job growth 50%? Is it 80%? Is schools 4% or 40%, right? Which one of these works more? And so I was like, well, the only way to figure that out is to create large data sets. And I'm like, where do I get the
Right.
data sets? Well, I'm going to mine the Bureau of Labor Statistics website. I'm going to crash Zillow. I did crash Zillow once in 2011 and had to stay away from it because I could have gotten in trouble for that. So basically, you mine all of the sites that on the one side have real estate data and on the other side have demographics data. So the Department of Labor's website is perfect for that. Wikipedia, a bunch of other sites, citydata.com. And on the other side, you have all these real estate websites like Zillow and 10 others like that. So you take the real estate data, which shows you real estate profits, home
Mm-hmm.
prices going up and down, rents going up and down. And then on the other side, you see demographic data and you say, I'm going to take these and smoosh them together and then run
Right.
lots and lots of analysis to see, what makes the biggest difference? And the short answer is jobs and population growth were the biggest pieces, and they were really big. And then other pieces
Mm-hmm.
like crime reduction and schools were much smaller than people thought. Now, this was counterintuitive. If you had asked me before running the analysis, I would have said the best schools. That's what creates real estate profit. Well, the answer is
Mm-hmm.
schools are very heavily tied to real estate profits when buying, building, and selling single family homes. But
Absolutely.
when buying, building, or selling rental properties, that school number went down pretty drastically. The correlation between profits and schools was a lot lower than most people think. And this is what data
Mm-hmm.
does. It slaps us in the face all the time, right? It's like,
Yeah.
no, 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 no. That's your belief. Your belief doesn't mean anything. The world doesn't pay you for your belief. The world pays you for data driven aha moments. And so I had aha
Mm-hmm.
moments and I was like, Then I said, what about bigger markets? What about smaller markets? And I kept asking those questions, dozens, hundreds of different questions, because I'm a curious
Sure.
chap. I need to know these things,
Yeah.
right? I just have to know them because I have to know them. So I started doing that. And then eventually around 2010, 2011, insights started to emerge. And those insights led me to create a course. First, I taught that course in the San Francisco Bay Area. I opened a meetup group inside of my technology business. So I had people would actually come from all over the Bay Area to that meetup group. I had a big conference room. I'd go there and I'd
Right.
teach my insights, and very geeky, dorky, nerdy, Bay Area technologists, Silicon Valley people would show up and they would share their ideas and make my stuff better. And it was really fun. No one was really a real estate guru
Right.
or magnate. Everyone was basically W2 technology people, right? And we were like
Right.
all giddy, sharing all these toys with each other, sharing spreadsheets, Perl scripts, Python scripts, all kinds of interesting stuff that's leading to this stuff. And then somebody comes and says, "Put this on the internet." So I go on over Christmas. I record a 2.5 hour course, and somebody gave me
Mm-hmm.
really good advice, Sachin. They said this course has to be so simple that somebody who has trouble with basic Excel can still master it, right? So I had
Yes.
to change my mindset because I had to go from this is for data scientists to this is for the general public. And it took me a lot of time to basically get it down to that level. And I did manage to do it. And the rule was that one the rule I created for myself, which took me a year to figure out, is in 10 minutes, Sachin or someone else that just has barely enough Excel skills in 10 minutes should be able to take a city that they've never been to before, don't know anything about, and another city that they've never heard of, don't know anything about, and be able to compare them
Mm-hmm.
and easily tell which city is better for real estate investing and how much better. That was the challenge,
Wow.
and it had to be done in 10 minutes. So I had to basically do all of the work for people so that they just had to
Mm-hmm.
plug in 5 numbers. And I had to figure out where the 5 numbers were available publicly without paying any money. So I did that. I called the course Location Magic. I put it up on Udemy, and I think 100 people are going to show up. Right now, there's 12,500 people taking the course, and it has thousands of 5-star reviews. Clearly, there are geeky, dorky,
Absolutely.
nerdy people like me everywhere in the United States. They just don't know where to go. And so I provided a way for them to do this. And, I've continued on from there. That was, 2011, 2012. Now there's 100,000 people that follow me. There's 1,000 investors that have given me about $300 million of their money to buy and build properties of all kinds, different sorts of properties. Um, but what I'm interested most in is that when I do these podcasts, Sachin, after every
Sure.
podcast, people send me emails saying, "Have you looked at this parameter? Have you looked at this website? Oh, don't you know that
Mm-hmm.
this AI tool is doing all of the things that you're doing in 5 minutes, right? You just have to go do this." And so I now have this enormous repository of free research and information that I get
Mm-hmm.
just by being on podcasts, and that's the joy of life.
Yes, yes, absolutely, absolutely. By the way, I've gone through your Udemy course, and I really like the presentation there. And I would encourage all the listener and whoever is watching this to try that out to figure out the location
Yeah.
magic is really good one. And
Yeah,
I
it's
think you do every year,
udemy.com slash
2023.
real focus.
Yeah,
So it's udemy.com,
yeah,
udemy.com slash real focus. Check it out. I think it'll make you think differently. I think it'll make you a better investor. And I mean, it
absolutely.
applies for really everything, right? So whether you're doing
Yep.
self-storage or multifamily, new construction, or value add, it applies for everything because it's a mindset. It's a mindset about why does real estate make such a staggering amount of money? And I think you'll discover the answers.
Absolutely. So going back to, I guess, next questions. So we talk about why you real estate now. I want to talk about your company, Grow Capitus, and I think believe you started in 2018 around that time. And my
Yeah.
question is why, and how did you got started on this?
So in 2013, I sold my technology company. I was the junior partner. There was a senior partner for staggering amount of money. We were the class leading company in our space. We got the highest multiples that anyone's gotten in our space, and we did that because I was extremely obsessed with technology, with data,
Mm-hmm.
but also with outsourcing. So we had built outsourcing systems that were incredible, and so we had margins that no one else had dreamed of. So I was like, how do
Sure.
I take these class leading systems and this outsourcing methodology? How do I combine that with real estate? Has anyone else done that? Now, actually, multiple people have done it. Lots of people have what we call virtual assistants. I never call them that because those people don't fully understand what these people are careful of. I call it outsourced armies. So I have an army in the
What's
Philippines,
your salary?
and I started growing that army in the 2013, 2014 timeframe. So while Grow Capitus was started in 2018, I actually became a real estate syndicator in 2014. So for 4 years, I was working with someone who was a senior partner, watching,
Mm-hmm.
learning, providing suggestions before I sort of set out on my own. And so the experience has been about 9 years now, plus another 9 years because I was doing real estate for 9 years just for my pocket as a technologist, buying dozens of single family homes and selling them duplexes,
Sure.
triplexes, fourplexes, sevenplexes. So I was doing a lot of real estate just as a technologist, no investors, just me and family for 9 or 10 years. And then for the last 9 or 10 years, I've been doing it professionally. And Grow Capitus came about because my partner, wonderful as he was, would not do what I do, which is as soon as we come up with a question, he would use his experience and gut feel to answer it. And that would often be the end of the discussion. My way
Okay.
is as soon as come up with a question, I write it down. And then I basically say, let's research what other people think about this, what data says about this, and how do we measure this? So how do we measure the
Hmm.
answer that people are giving us? Maybe their answers are completely bullshit, complete bogus, or they're amazing. How do
Hmm.
we measure that? Well, he didn't like that process because to him it was a disruptive process. To me, that's just the way things need to be done. That's what we get paid to do in my mind, right? So
Yep.
eventually the paths converged, and so I went my own way, and I've built a company where I'm proud to say a whole bunch of people are like this. So, right? So they over time you can train people to be, process driven. So, like for example, if you want to do something like decide where we want to go for our annual meeting, we went to Breckenridge, we went to Scottsdale. Well, then we'll
Hmm.
create a form, and then that form will get published on our Slack channels, which we have fun Slack channels to post our pictures and things like that. And so what this allows
Sure.
us to do is basically figure out everyone in the company, what they're thinking, which cities do they like, why do they like them, and all of that is coming into a form. That form is going in Slack, and that it's there forever. So even if a city doesn't win this year and we go off to another city to have our annual fun, maybe we can go back and look at the city again a year before. That's system, that's process, that's institutional company knowledge that you're storing and reusing, even though it's only about
Hmm.
which place I like best for fun. Right? I use
Hmm.
that as an example because it's easy to understand. Now apply that to 10,000 things that you do, right? And then
Yep.
all of a sudden, the knowledge of the people in your company is not just stored, but it's used and reused and used in the best way. So I call myself a process freak because when I
Hmm.
do something that I like, my immediate urge is, how do I make sure that this keeps happening without me? Right?
Sure.
So I'm immediately into a meeting where it's like, this is really good. How are we going to turn it into a process? And how are we going to turn it into a process where 90% of the work is done by my amazing Filipino army and 10% is done by my employees in the US? And if you do
Yep.
that thousands of times, you end up with something really powerful, and that's Grow Capitus.
Wow, that's amazing. So it's been around for 6 years now. So what are you guys are doing now in Grow Capitus? What is your major
We've
focus?
We've done lots of things. So we've done obviously value add multifamily, new construction multifamily. We've built townhomes. We've also built luxury townhomes. We've done self storage, office, industrial, flex. Loved it all. It's wonderful. But do you remember at the beginning I was saying I'm obsessed about what's the best? How do you measure? Like, so I started
Absolutely.
measuring all of these asset classes and started giving them rankings on risk, reward, all of those kind of things, predictability of returns, right? Certain areas have lower predictability of returns, certain areas have higher predictability of returns. So I became obsessed with that.
Mhm.
It was clear to me that value add multifamily, it has a high predictability of returns, right? So I started looking for
Mhm.
other asset classes because there's a problem with value add multifamily. So predictability is there, which is great. Yay. I love that, right?
Mhm.
But here's the problem. We are not solving America's problem with value add multifamily. What do? We take a building, it's old, right? So it's got, old countertops and it's got old cabinets, and we go in there, we replace the cabinets, we replace the countertops, we make it look nicer, we put a coat of paint on it. But here's the thing.
Mhm.
When we started, someone was living there. When we ended, someone was living there.
It's
We
living there.
didn't create anything. We didn't actually add to the total volume of American homes. We have a
Mhm.
4.7 million home shortage. I actually think it's
Yeah.
1.7 million. Um, and so that shortage needs to be resolved. So eventually I became dissatisfied, Sachin. I became dissatisfied because I realized I was making things better, but I wasn't fundamentally adding to the household stock of the United States. And I'm
Yeah.
only interested in fixing problems. I'm interested in impact investing, in profit with a purpose. And if there's no purpose, it sort of, I'm not at my best. So I decided to look for profit with a purpose, and I found it finally. And it is my mission. It is called Mission 10K. And my mission is to build 10,000 affordable townhomes. This is not affordable housing. Affordable housing is a tiny apartment in a very dense multifamily property, right?
Hmm.
That's not affordable. That's affordable housing. I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in affordable townhomes. Why? Because I'm interested in that middle America, those 18 million families that can no longer afford to buy single family homes. And the only solution that we have produced for them is apartments. I believe there is an in between solution for those people, and that in between solution is called build to rent. Essentially, this means you build communities of 100 townhomes. They're brand new, 9-foot ceilings, granite countertops. They've got smart appliances. They've got a small backyard, a small front yard. They've got one garage. So there are definitely, it's not perfect. It's not a single family home. Doesn't have a second car garage, and the backyard's not huge. But that is
Yep.
what America can afford today, right? And
Hmm.
so my mission has become that fine, we need 70 million apartments or 60 million apartments in this country, and we've got most of them already. We've got a stock of about 55 million apartments. That's good. That's great. But what about the people that want more? They want more than apartments, and they know they can't go to the single family level. If they could, they've already bought one, right? That middle tier of 18
Absolutely.
middle Americans, I call it middle America. And it is my mission to build housing for them that is not subsidized housing. I don't want them to live in a box. America was
Hmm.
always meant to shoot for the stars. And affordable
Yep.
housing is us saying we can't do any better. Affordable housing is we are going to put a family of 4 people and 2 dogs in a box that's 500 square feet. I
Yeah.
refuse to believe that that is America. To me,
Yeah.
America is a 1,300 square foot, 3 bed, 2.5 bath townhome. And so
Right.
I'm building currently 100 communities of those that are 100 units each in fast growing
Okay.
markets in the United States. And that's my mission, Mission 10K. And I'm basically reaching out to lots and lots of people that are active in the industry that are growing in their databases and have investor connections to invite them to do
Right.
this because there is no way one Neal Bawa can build 10,000 townhomes. I need $800 million dollars of equity and $2.4 billion dollars total to build it. I am going to hit that goal, but this is a mission, and missions cannot be driven by one man. I simply want to be part
Absolutely.
of this mission and start this mission and have somebody take it from me because one day I hope it'll be Mission 100K.
Absolutely. The reason I actually, Neil, you want to be in podcast, when I heard one of our private meeting with our mastermind group, and you mentioned that 10,000 townhomes, I was like very excited and really wanted to talk to you and having the podcast. So that's a beautiful mission. You're trying to solve a big problem in America, which you rightly said. American dream is to home ownership. And I think with your mission, we can impact millions of lives. And I really think that you're doing amazing and good luck. And hopefully we all can be part of this.
I would
And
love for more people to be part of it. It only works that way. So far, the feedback that I've received from people that have seen the first property that I built, it's 100% leased up, is it's radically different. The tenants tell me, Sachin, when they live in an apartment, they think of it as an apartment. When they live in my townhome community, they think of it as their home. There
absolutely.
is a huge difference, and there is a
Difference.
nobility and there is a pride in providing Americans with something that they're proud to call their home.
Absolutely. Totally agree with that. You're doing amazing. So again, we definitely wanted to, help you out and be part of it.
Well, if you're
And
listening and you like what I'm saying, go out to mission10k.com. Connect with me because I need your
okay,
help.
definitely.
Mission10k.com. It's very simple. Mission10k.com. You'll see some of our initial Mission 10,000 cities. You'll see some of our initial Mission 10,000 projects. You'll see one that's already built. Um, Come join with us. There's no need to
That's
go off and
amazing.
do this on your own because the best mission is where other people join with us and even build their own communities.
Absolutely. So Neil, I wanted to go to the our market in United States right now. I know we can talk this forever, but I want we do the time. I want to just focus on a few things before we end the show. What do you think about the real estate market in the past 18 months that's happening in our country? And what is your suggestion to the investors because a lot of people, go with their, again, gut feeling and do not, do the data like you have done some research on this.
I'll simply say this. This is the most misunderstood market that I've ever been part of. Okay. 2 years ago, I
Absolutely.
was screaming in every podcast saying, don't invest, don't invest. It's too expensive. Don't invest. I'm not investing. I'm sitting on the sidelines. Everyone else is sitting on the sidelines. And more properties were being bought in a week then than are being bought in a month now. Everyone was
Wow.
buying, everyone was investing. That didn't work out so good for people, right? Those
Right.
properties are in trouble or basically are not going to hit their financial goals. I'm just going to be polite today and say that many of them are actually going to default in the coming 12 months. Bottom line, though,
Hmm.
is today I actually see investors. Firstly, 24 months ago, I have no idea what investors were thinking. They were smoking the hopium. They were drinking the Kool-Aid. Interest rates were
Yep.
going up month after month, and more money was going into properties as interest rates were going up. The
Hmm.
peak occurred in January 2022. Inflation was already at 6%. I don't know what anyone was thinking investing in a property at 3.5 cap when inflation was at 6% in January 2022. I had no
Yep.
freaking idea what they were doing. Now I have no freaking idea what they're doing either because now nobody wants to invest, which makes zero sense to me. It's like, what is wrong with you? You were fine with investing when inflation was skyrocketing every single month. You were fine with paying 3.5 cap on properties that should have been 5 cap. Today, every property is 5 cap, which means that the
Hmm.
prices have gone down between 21 and 29%, right?
Yep.
And all of those people that were claiming 4% rent growth are now underwriting for 1.5 or 2% rent growth. So now
Hmm.
underwriting is more moderate, prices are much lower, cap rates are much higher. Um, Everyone's all of a sudden rational, and now you don't want to invest. Why? Because you've seen what happened in the last 18 months. This is
Hmm.
the most irrational that investors have been since 2009 because
Hmm.
investors do not understand one thing fundamentally. Every investor in America knows what Warren Buffett said: be greedy when others are fearful and be fearful when others are greedy. This is the most famous quote of all
Absolutely.
time, right? It's probably been
Yep.
said on this podcast multiple times. But no one actually listens to what Warren Buffett says, right?
Hmm.
There is only true opportunity in distressed times. That is the
Absolutely.
only thing possible. Because if there is no distress, how can there be true opportunity? Everyone has money to invest. True opportunity
Hmm.
diminishes and dies when there's too much money to invest. Today, there's opportunity and a lack of money. Why? Because investors are thinking we can make 4.5% in the bank. And that is the
Hmm.
worst way to think. And I'll explain why. Number one,
Sure.
in the last 10 years, inflation was 1.5%, and you could make half a
Hmm.
percent in the bank with a money market account. So you were losing 1.5% and making half percent. So you were minus 1%, right? So your net worth was going down by 1% every year. Now let's look at it
Hmm.
today. Average inflation in the last 6 months has been 6%. And in the bank, you can make
Hmm.
4.5%. 6% minus 4.5, you're minus 1.5, where before you were minus one. You're losing
Yeah.
more money today. You know what's the only thing that's changed? You're happy losing money. All the investors are like, I am making 4.5%. No, you're losing 1.5%. And for the last 10 years, you've been losing 1%. You're now losing more and you're happy. Why? Because you're not an investor. You're a speculator. You're delusional. You don't know how to do math.
Hmm.
You're losing more money today than you were 18 months ago, and you're missing out the chances on buying properties that are 20 to 25% discounted. It's
Hmm.
ridiculous. I do not understand it. I'm literally banging my head on the wall saying all these people promised themselves that they would never miss out a 2009 opportunity again. And that's exactly what they're
Hmm.
doing. Absurd.
Yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. So I can see your passion on this. Definitely, it's ridiculous how things are going on, and a lot of investor definitely, would have to do more of education and try to do a right thing. So I agree with you totally.
Yeah, it's our
What do you
job,
think
right?
about this? What do you think about this rate hikes that recently, I think yesterday or day before yesterday, going up, and what do you think the impact on the new construction project? With this
Um,
and
Significant impact. I mean, if you're doing new construction right now, you should pause. I have projects in Texas. I just went back to my investors. I try to keep my ego aside, and I said to them, if I build them now, we'll probably make 10%. If I pause
Hmm.
for 12 to 18 months, we'll probably make 20%. Which one makes
Hmm.
sense? And the investors, if you explain things to them, if you show them the numbers, are logical. So they blessed it.
Hmm.
We went and we paused our projects that are in process. Let me tell you
Okay.
where the opportunity is. Because remember, people are like, oh, so new construction, there's a challenge there. Yes, it's a short-term challenge. It's not a long-term challenge. There is
Absolutely.
no one in the United States, including the Federal Reserve, that believes that interest rates will be this high in 12 months. No one, and I don't believe it
True.
either, because if they were this high in 12 months, the economy would be in a severe recession, right? Because you can
Hmm.
only pound the economy with super high interest rates for so many months or so many years before it crashes. And when have you ever seen interest rates stay high in a recession? Not once in the last 200
Hmm.
years have interest rates stayed high in a recession. It just the math doesn't work, right? There's no need to keep them high when demand is crashing. So I know
Exactly.
rates are going to be lower in 12 months, and I know that they're going to be even lower in 24 months. Knowing that, what should I be doing? Construction, I already told you this may be a good time to pause. Here's what you
Hmm.
should be doing. Land. This is an incredible time to buy land. All of you out there that have been thinking about land banking, this is your chance. I'm going to give you a real example. In the last 3 weeks, I put
Hmm.
3 properties into contract. One of them was in my favorite market, Rogers, Arkansas. I was I was this close to buying a property for $2.5 million. It's 10 acres, $2.5 million
Hmm.
piece of land, and having 60 days to close 18 months ago. Right? I'm glad I didn't buy it.
Right.
I didn't buy it.
Hmm.
Today, that piece of land is 1.1 million with a 17-month close.
Wow.
Right? 2.5 million to 1.1 million, 60-day close to 17-month close. Land becomes
Hmm.
completely illiquid when interest rates go beyond 4 or 5%. This is an
Hmm.
incredible time to land bank. And for my Mission 10K project, I am banking a new piece of land every 3 or 4 weeks, and I am paying nothing. Nothing. The one that I just signed a
Absolutely.
contract on was a $15,000 deposit, refundable for 6 months. And then if I don't want to refund it at that point, I add another 15,000. So now I'm in for $30,000, and I can keep it going for 17 months total.
Wow.
Disgusting. This is the time to land bank.
Hmm. So, guys, listen. So we need to, definitely follow, Neil's recommendation, and I agree with him. There's a good time to buy land, and and definitely there's a lot to come in, coming months, and definitely a lot of opportunity. So I would like to switch the gear for a little bit more of personal questions to Neil.
Yep.
I know the time. I don't know how much time we have, but I just want a couple of more questions. So, what my question is: who and what inspires you and drives you to be productive every day?
Um, a desire to be better. There's people on this show that say family. There's people on this, show that say, other things. I desire to be better. I desire to be the best I can be. I'm in a competition with me. And so once I climb a level, then I'm in a competition with the guy that's just climbed that level. So now the new guy has to climb another level. So you constantly have to be competing with yourself, and that's what drives me forward.
Absolutely. Totally agree. Better version of yourself and get better from yesterday, every day. I try to do the same thing. And what is your dream now, Neil? I know the mission is 10,000 townhomes. Besides that, anything else you want to share?
Um, my dream. I'm watching it come through. The world is going through a renewable energy transition. I know we're going to run out of oil and we're going to have challenges, but I am
Hmm.
extremely excited that that transition is now beginning to succeed. Everything in the past, super
Hmm.
expensive. Now it makes sense. Today, the math is incredible. Um, and yeah, I know it's a politicized area, so people will give me, trouble for saying this, but it's succeeding. It's succeeding far beyond what most people know. I'm obsessed with the math. I do not listen to what the left and the right say. They're politicized. The math
Hmm.
shows incredible things. I am looking forward to living in the era of energy abundance.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's true, and you're right, definitely things are growing, AIs and all those things. I know you're pretty on those data things too. Because of time, we're not gonna go deal on that. But what is your biggest win in your life so far, and how you define success?
My ability to bounce back from when I fail. I think that
Hmm.
I think failure is the necessary prerequisite for success. People
Absolutely.
say, the Facebook guy never failed. He was in college, he started Facebook, he made all this money. No, he failed at Facebook every day. How do you know?
Hmm.
He failed, he learned, he turned things around the next day.
Hmm.
Facebook took a total of 4 years to get to 100 million people. He had, in those 4 years, he had thousands of chances to fail and then succeed. To me, it's all about learning from your failures because I don't seem to have learned anything from my successes.
Absolutely. That's totally true. And, also our famous Thomas Edison, who invented the light, he only went third grade in school and he had failed 10,000 times, and one of the century, invention in the world. We
Yeah.
all know that, So my last question today, Neil, for you before we leave, is where people can find you, and what is the one thing you want to share before you leave?
Um, People can find me either by typing in my first and last name. I'm the only Neal Bawa on the World Wide Web, or by going to multifamilyu.com. So that's multifamily followed by the letter u.com. We publish 12 webinars a year there. I think Sachin recently saw my webinar on artificial intelligence and how it's going to change the world. I'm doing some very
Yes,
interesting webinars coming up. Um, and that community is, we get about 25,000 people registering for our webinars each year. So you're welcome to come there. We don't have an educational product. We don't have an upsell. We're not. There's no
absolutely.
subscription. There never will be. It's just a community for people to gather and think about interesting things. And some of them are tied to real estate, but not all of them. So join us at multifamilyu.com and be part of the community. If you're interested in our projects, check out Grow Capitus. If you're interested in joining us as an equity partner, just call me or email me and we'll talk.
Sure. Thank you. And what's the one thing you want to share before you leave?
Was that? No.
What is the one thing
Oh,
you want to share? Yeah.
um, um, question yourself. I find that people become so entrenched in their own thoughts and ideas that they lose the ability to question themselves. They say stuff, and when they're saying it, they don't doubt what they're saying. Doubt is great. Doubt is amazing. Let doubt drive you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much, Neil. It was amazing. So many perks and so many golden nuggets we have learned today. So, and I really appreciate your time. Anyone who's listening and watching this video or podcast, I would really appreciate you can share and, like and subscribe. And that would be awesome. Thank you so much, Neil, again. It was an honor to have you in our show, and see you next time.